Dear brothers and sisters, I would like to share with you a message today entitled Wisdom from Above. Wisdom from Above. It's based on James chapter 3, verse 13 to 18. I think, yes, as you may recall, the book of James put a lot of emphasis on faith and deeds. If you have genuine faith, it should reflect in your good deeds. Otherwise, your faith is fake. So today, I would like to draw on James 3:13 to 18 to reflect two kinds of wisdom. There's earthly wisdom, there's also wisdom from heaven. I do not know how you distinguish these two pair of adjectives. Sometimes you praise someone who is very clever or smart, or someone who is very wise. What's the difference between clever and wise? To me, clever means that, this one is someone very smart, they're very quick, witty, can come up with a solution quickly, maybe very knowledgeable, can get things done. Wise, on the other hand, I think is more fast-fetching, looking more long-term, looking at the destination, choosing the right values and the right path to achieve the result. In other words, the goal is correct. You're guiding the way to find something that's good at the end. I teach in a business school. In a business school, we come up with two concepts. One is called vision's mission. The other is called strategy. Vision and strategy. I would say that in a way, I can use this as a parallel. Wisdom is like vision, guiding you to good situations, good final destination, while strategy is the way to get there. What are the different paths? How do you mobilize the resources, methods, and you know how to do it to get to your goal? But which goal are you going to? So that's the vision. To me, wisdom is like vision, going to the right path, go to the right goal, while strategy is get the methods to get there. So you can praise people being very smart, very clever, very witty, but at the same time, you can also praise people being very wise. As Chinese parents, you know that in our Chinese culture, we put a lot of emphasis on education, especially education of our children. We want them to be smart. We want them to be clever. We want them to do very good math, science, and be well-learned, study a lot. And then sometimes we even hire tutors for them to study. And even we go to send them to piano lessons, do a lot of, just mainly to develop the talents, the different gifts, so that they are all very smart, very clever, and all talented. And hopefully with a good knowledge, good skills, good academic scores, GPR, one day they then can go to get a place in the Ivy League, getting to the top university in the nations. On one hand, it's prestigious. On the other hand, you can learn a lot. And then when you come out, most likely you'll land on a very good job with a very decent salary, leading a good, stable life, marry a good house, marry a husband or wife, have children, have a very stable family. So we Chinese emphasize a lot on education, educating our younger generation. Hopefully they will be smart, clever, learned, talented, and then get to high school, prestigious school. However, I think it's more important that besides being clever and learned, talented, it's also very important to teach them the true wisdom. I think I mentioned to you, in Europe, there was one person. He was very talented. He was a painter. He knew how to paint. He knew how to appreciate us. He also knew how to be an architect, design houses, buildings very well. He was also a very eloquent speaker, charismatic, a tremendous leadership and organizing power. So looking at all these characteristics, we parents will be very, very envy that our children will be like him, model out of him, of all these talents, good skill, eloquent speaker, very smart, very knowledgeable, and also very artistic. Do you know what's the name of this person? I think you may guess it right. His name is called Adolf Hitler. Hitler was a very talented person, very gifted in art, architecture, have a deep sense of appreciation of art, very eloquent, knowledgeable, and make good speech, charismatic speech, very powerful in terms of leadership, and tremendous organizing power. However, he's very smart and clever, but he did not have the true wisdom. So what happened? He guided people to the wrong path, lead to the destruction of Europe, killing tens of millions of people in Europe. Not just Europeans around outside Germany, but bring destructions, disaster to Germany itself. And that is Adolf Hitler. He was very clever, very smart, but he was not wise. So as parents, we have to pray, not just our children are very smart, very learned, very talented. We also pray that they will go back to the right path, have the wisdom from God so that God will guide them to the right destination. Not just being good to their families, but also be beneficial to people around them, beneficial to other people, bring blessings and peace to other people around them. Back to our book of James. You know the background of James. James is addressing the church at the time. They say that you church people, you claim that you're very smart, very wise, but there are actually a lot of problems with this church. They show favoritism, look down on the poor, and then kind of just just praise the rich, favoritism. And then divisive, like to gossip, rumors, has a tongue problem. That's why James said, control your tongue. Like to teach. They claim that their wisdom, they like to teach others. They want to preach. Although they are very good in Bible knowledge, but they do not see the real action. So Brother James wrote this part. He says, hey, you people who claim to be wise, you have to watch. Where does your wisdom come from? That's why in this message, James emphasized two kinds of wisdom. Wisdom from above and wisdom on earth, earthly wisdom. The two kinds of wisdom. So if we claim that we're wise, we claim that our children are wise, so we have to reflect what kind of wisdom we have. Is it earthly wisdom or heavenly wisdom? Second, you try to follow other people. You also listen to other people's advice. But when you hear people's advice, you also need to think about what kind of advice, what kind of wisdoms does this advice stem from? Is it earthly wisdom or heavenly wisdom? And when you choose leaders, also choose leaders who are wise and smart, but where's the source of the wisdom? Are they from heaven, from above, or from earth? Otherwise, you follow wrong leaders, they'll lead you to destruction. So this is a very practical subject, whether for yourself to self-reflect or for following other people, listening to other people's advice. So James said, you people who is wise and understanding. Many of you claim that you're wise and understanding, all right? If that's the case, James said, I'll ask you two things. If you are wise, then show me in your humility that usually true wisdom comes with humility. Humility or being meek. True wisdom, people with true wisdom, wisdom above, tend to be humble, not boastful. So if you are saying that you're wise, understanding, well learned, so show me that your humility that usually comes from real wisdom. Now the word humility here, in fact, the original Greek word is actually proudness. The way you translate this in English is I am who God says I am. I am who God says I am. Being meek, what's the true meaning? It means that you don't want to have a self-inflated ego. You don't need to boast. You also don't need to press down yourself. You see yourself as the Creator sees you. I am who God sees I am. I don't have to elevate myself beyond what I am. I don't have to press myself below what I should be. I just live the way that God makes me and then live out my role. That's it. So my self-worth does not depend on other people's praise. You don't have to keep asking people to praise you. You don't want to do things and every time you want people to recognize you. You don't want to do things just every time to grab credits. Say, this is my work. This is my work. Your self-worth depends on the Creator. Because He likes you, He knows you, because He values you, you have the self-worth and you have this inner sense of peace and joy and confidence. Because your confidence is how God sees you who you are. You don't have to seek recognition all the time. You don't need to have other people praise your work all the time. You can do good things behind the scene without people recognize you because your worth is in the Lord, how God sees you. So you have the inner peace. You have the humility and meekness. I would like to share with you one story. There's a musician, very talented. She performed on the stage. She did so well. Then when she finished, the whole house just clapped. Bravo, bravo, and then stood up. But while the whole house, all the audience was praising her, it seems that her attention was not drawn to the audience. In fact, her eyes are looking at deep down at the balcony, up there at the balcony. So some people say that worry. Why? Wonder why? There's a lot of praise, a lot of clapping, applause, all that, but she does not seem to pay attention to people who claps. Instead, her focus is on at the balcony. So some of them turn around and see who was at the balcony. Guess who was at the balcony? It was her teacher. Her teacher. When the teacher clapped, smiled, she also clapped and smiled. She was very happy. Yes, of course, you people praise me is fine. But most important of all, I want to see how my teacher thought. How my teacher think about my performance. If he thinks that I'm good, I'm good. Because he knows how I pray. He knows all my weaknesses and strengths. And do I perform up to his expectation? So her focus is on the teacher at the balcony all the time. I am as what God sees I am. This is humility. It's being meek. Your self-worth is not just from other people's boast. You don't have to grab credits all the time, but your self-worth depends on how God, your position in the Lord. you have this inner peace and assurance, confidence. And those people wise understanding show it by their good life and by deeds, Brother James said. If you have true wisdom, show you by good life. Now, the original Greek word for this one, good, is actually kalos. It means good and also therefore beautiful. In other words, people who are really wise, they tend to do good deeds, helping other people, bring peace and benefits to other people. They're doing good deeds all the time. And they do it also behind the scene. They do not do it to put on a show. And that actually is the nature. When they do it, it is from their inner heart. And it shows it's just beautiful. It's not just an act, it's beautiful. From this one, you show that this person is beautiful. Because it's spring out of the inner self. James said, if you are truly wise and understanding, show me these two things. One, on one hand, you're meek. On the other hand, you're good and beautiful. Unfortunately, James said, what I see in the church, a lot of this wisdom does not belong to this kind. This is another the type of wisdoms you're boasting. So in the next few words, he tried to describe the other type of wisdom. So the first verse is addressing those people in the church who claim they're wise and understanding. He said, you better check. Where is the source of your wisdom? Is it from above or from below? Verse 14 to 16. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. So it says, hey, before you boast, check where's the source of your wisdom. It may not come above, it may come from earth. It actually comes from demon, the evil spirit. I think all of you have heard this story in the Bible about David and Uriah. David being a king, while his generals and soldiers fighting at the front line, he was enjoying at his palace, sleeping all the time until sunset. And when he woke up, he saw a lady bathing. And his lustful heart, he summoned Lady Bathsheba and came and lay with her. He thought, oh, just one act. That's it. But what happened is that Bathsheba became pregnant. So if she becomes pregnant, then people discover, because Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, was fighting in the battlefield. How come you could become pregnant? So people start asking, you adulterous woman, who was the adulterer? And then she said, this is King David. Then King David will be in trouble. So they have to come up with some methods, some device to cover this up. So David first summoned Uriah. Hey, Uriah, come and report what happened in the battlefield. Oh, when Uriah talked about our soldiers were fighting bravely for Israel. Say, that's great. So you stay here. We have a good dinner to celebrate. And then after that, go back to your home and with your wife. So that was David's plan. But Uriah himself was a very brave and honest soldier. He said, King David, I could not do that. I'd rather sleep here because my fellow soldiers and officers were fighting the field. I don't want to be different. I want to be with them. I cannot enjoy my family life. I need to go back with them. Otherwise, I think it's unfair to them. So he's a very, very honorable soldier. So instead of going home to have good intimate relationship with his wife, he just slept at the palace with other people, with the servants and other people. And after a couple of nights, David think that this plan did not pan out. So he devised another very smart plan. What's that? I think you know that. So in the morning, David wrote a letter and asked Uriah, give it back to the general, the commander, Joab. In that he said, put Uriah out in front where the fighting is fierce. Then withdraw from him so that he'll be struck down and die. So while Joab had the city under siege, he put Uriah at a place where he knew the strongest defenders were. When the men of the city came up and fought against Joab, some of the men in David's army fell. Moreover, Uriah died. So David came up with a very ingenious plan to kill Uriah. Was David very clever, smart? Yes, he was. It's actually a very smart plan, trying to murder somebody and cover all the things up. And from then on, he can actually marry Bathsheba. Seems to be very clever. So brothers and sisters, let me ask you, what kind of wisdom is it? Is it wisdom from above or wisdom from earth? I think this is wisdom from earth. Brian James said, now you need people to watch out. Some people very smart, very charismatic, have good, strong leadership skills, but the source of the wisdom actually is not from earth, from above. It's from earth. It's from Satan. He will just guide you to the path of destructions. The eventual destination is hell. So don't follow them. So here James said, what are the characteristics of earthly wisdom? He said, envy and self-ambition, self-seeking. They do all these things to benefit themselves, self-seeking, selfish ambitions, and also envy what people have, just like David. Envy Uriah's beautiful wife, and we want to grab her to be his own. And he came up with this plan, devised this plan to murder her husband, Uriah. That kind of self-seeking, selfish envy, that kind of wisdom does not come from above, is from demon, from evil spirits. Whenever you see envy and selfish, be very careful. Don't follow them. You find a leader keep being boastful, self-seeking, always try to grab praise to himself or herself, be careful. The other characteristics of earthly wisdom is that do not boast about it or deny the truth. In other words, is facing facts. People with earthly wisdom tend to do what? Lie. They may tell you the partial truth. They may be distorting truth. They may create faith facts to deceive you. And they tend to be very boastful. Now, those are the characteristics of people who have earthly wisdom. They're self-seeking, they're boastful, they do not respect the truth. They do not respect the facts. They do not respect God's commandments. Instead, they create an alternative reality. They create facts. They distort facts. They report partial truth, suppressing the others, and just paint a picture that suits their own desire. So if you see this pattern, recognize that that's wisdom not from above, but from below. And such wisdom, unfortunately, is very prevalent. It appears in families, in churches, and also in countries, in governments. So James warns us, as leaders, or you have to reflect upon yourself what kind of wisdom you have. Or as followers, look at what kind of leaders you're following. Do they have possessed wisdom from above or wisdom from below? This kind wisdoms from below, from earth, actually divide families, churches, and countries. I know one family relative, husband-wife relationship. The husband actually was not faithful to his wife. Besides his wife, he actually had affairs with women outside. But he was very clever. He tried to deceive his wife. He had two different cellular phones. One is used to call his wife. The other is used to call other people, other women. He's just afraid that sometimes he got mixed up, then he used this phone to call his wife, and then the wife can recognize the phones of the other women. He was very smart. He was able to fool his wife for many years, until one day the wife found out. He was very clever, but this kind of wisdom divided the family, tries to support his deviant behavior of having affairs outside the marriage, breaking the family. This kind of wisdom divide families. Such wisdom does not come from earth, from heaven, James said, but is of earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. Earthly wisdom also destroys churches, split churches. I know of one church in the north where there was power struggle among the elders. Especially one elder is devious. He tried to form a clique to master people around him, in order to defeat other people within the church. He spread out rumors from a little clique, and using the clique, manufacturing events, distort reality, suppressing the truth, and then exaggerating other events and spreading rumor in order to gain positions, importance within the church. Of course, you know what happened. They create division to the church, and the church split. Even Christians sometimes, Christian leaders sometimes, fall into the prey to Satan. And Satan, since you follow my teaching, lying, manufacturing facts, envies, self-seeking, thank you. I can use you as a foothold and divide your church. Unfortunately, as far as I know, many church divisions, splitting, was caused by this earthly wisdom. Earthly wisdom also destroys country. When political leaders were not following the truth, self-seeking, distorting the facts, envious, this is not good for the country. So as followers, we need to be careful. Where does this wisdom come from? For where you have envy and selfish ambitions, there you whip out disorder and every evil practice. I think some of you have watched this miniseries by Netflix called House of Cards. I did not have time to watch it, but I heard that a lot of people like watching it. It's talking about couple. The husband, according to the story, actually came from South Carolina. And he used a little bit of tricks and became American president. In order to foster his power, he used a lot of tricks to put power, connections, distort facts. He became a very evil president. So, earthly wisdoms destroys family, destroys church, and also destroys countries. We talked about earlier, Hitler, very smart, very clever, King David. But their plans led to the destruction of the dynasty or their country. So we need to be very careful who we are following. Brother James says, you have to identify what kind of wisdom. The source. Earthly wisdom comes from Satan. The motives of self-seeking, self-ambitions, envy. The characteristic is that they don't tell the truth. They're liars. They're boastful. They distort the facts. They're not transparent. As a consequence, it shows disorder and all kinds of evil practice. So you need to watch out. In contrast to earthly wisdom, James said, there's also wisdom from above. Verse 17, 18, it says, but the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. So heavenly wisdom, wisdom above, has this characteristic. In fact, James already mentioned in verse 13, kind of, for example, it is peace-loving, submissive, again, humble, being meek, not boastful, not self-seeking, try to seek benefits and peace, mercy and bear good fruit. So in verse 13, James already mentioned being humble and show good deeds, good and beautiful. So he repeat here, the wisdom above had these characteristics, peace-loving, pure, transparent, considerate, and also in terms of handling facts, they're impartial, transparent, and sincere. They do not distort the reality, do not distort the suppressed truth, or handle hard, partial truth, or manufactured truth. They obeyed honestly the commandments of God. Let the facts tell, be transparent, try to be impartial, instead of just picking facts that suit their own ego, their selfish desire. So that's the wisdom above. And in that case, this can release them to good path, good goal. There will be peacemakers to bring a lot of harvest of righteousness. So summarize, in contrast to the earthly wisdom, heavenly wisdom, the source is from God, and the motive is to serve others, to glorify God. It's not for self-serving. And then the characteristics is that it is sincere, respecting the truth, respecting the facts, and try to be impartial, transparent. As a result, because of the work and good behavior, it brings peace and fruit of righteousness. So James, in this passage, emphasized that there are two kinds of wisdom. Wisdoms from above, wisdoms from below. So you as a leader, you people who claim to your wise and understanding, self-examine. Where's the source of your wisdom? Of people who follow people's advice or follow leaders, identify what kind of wisdom does this leader possess? Is the wisdom from above or the wisdom from below? And those are the characteristics you can discover, detect, and be wise. So to summarize today's message, wise and understanding, two kinds of wisdom, earthly wisdom and heavenly wisdom. The earthly wisdom, the source is from Satan. The motives of self-seeking, self-ambitions, and envy. And the characteristic is like to distort the truth, exaggerate facts, manufacture facts, boastful. And the consequences is leading people to the path of destruction, disorder, divisions, evil practice. Rather, we look at heavenly wisdom from God. It's not self-seeking, be meek and humble. At the same time, respect the facts, respect the truth, be impartial, transparent, sincere, willing to submit any time to the facts and God's teaching, and be patient with God. And the consequence will be peace, fruit of righteousness. So, brothers and sisters, when you try to teach your children, not just care about their education, talents, developments, or being very smart, very clever, also pray about their wisdom, that they have wisdom from above, not the earthly wisdom. As leaders, we also need to be careful and reflect about what's the source of our wisdoms, what's our motive, what are the ways that we do it, what's the consequence. And as we follow leaders, we have to discern who are the right leaders with wisdom from above and leaders with wisdom from below. That's what Brother James teaches us today. Let's bow our heads and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for getting us to worship you. And thank you for letting Brother James to write a wonderful passage to teach us that actually there are two sources of wisdom. Wisdom from above and wisdom from the earth. Let us not be deceived by the earthly wisdom. They look very good, very attractive, but guiding the path to destructions because the source is from evil spirits, from demon. Rather search for the wisdom from you. Give us peace, humble humility, good deeds, and bring joy and peace to other people. We thank you. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.